Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, show where you come for your rambling geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I am delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's our resident animagus of the pod, DL. How are you, mate?
I'm good, dude. I'm just, swimming around in my penguin life as an animagus. That's what I'd be.
Penguin animagus. I love it. So that's what you choose. That was my next question.
Dire life as a penguin, You basically...
Really?
Yeah, you basically, trek across the Antarctic to protect your young. Then, to eat, you have to go in the water and risk death by many different outcomes. But, I'm not afraid.
But you'd be dressed to impress all the time.
Yeah, it's a big upside there with the penguins. Always tuxedo ready, always black tie ready.
I'm glad you had something to go, though, because that was literally my next question.
Yeah, of course. Dude, what do you mean? You know me.
What's your animagus? I'd just be like a fish.
Yeah. We share a Netflix account, by the way. We share a Netflix account, as I think listeners would know. And we have this ongoing prank where we just change each other's, what are they called? Icons for each profile
picture.
And I think the first one you changed it to because of this penguin story, which I'm not sharing on air, is or not on air, on recording, is you just made me a penguin for a while. Just a penguin.
Well, there was a story behind it, wasn't there? I think you've shared this on the pod before, which I find hilarious.
Yeah.
It's funny, though, because that was actually all started by my partner. She just dove straight in. She was like, let's do it. All right, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah, totally.
How are you feeling, by the way? How are you rocking up?
Simply put, it feels like a knife in my throat every time I swallow, but
great.
Yeah,
that sounds delightful.
Luckily, I have a high pain tolerance. No, I'm getting better, but it's just slow. I've been on antibiotics for 3 or 4 days now, so it's starting. It's not as bad as when it
right.
Usually when I wake up, I'm like, ugh. The night just sucks and the morning is terrible, but it's all right today, so that's a good sign.
Well, if it helps, you look like shit, so that's good.
Glad to hear it.
Well, but seriously though, if it helps, I actually feel terrible. We were just talking about this a moment ago off air, but I ended up having a few drinks yesterday. I did a fabulous charity walk, 21 Ks, for a very good cause for cancer, which I will actually link below if anyone would like to donate. You're more than welcome to. We would love you to. We don't have a Patreon, so this could be your time to shine, listeners. But yeah, we did that. So I was telling this before, I am in bits today. I played futsal on Thursday.
Yeah.
We had a work final, and then I had this 21K walk the day after, which I was already a bit injured for based on the fact that I'd been kicked around the day before. And then we went out for drinks afterwards. So today I feel delightful. So if my voice is a little raspy, dear listeners, you know why.
Yeah, that's my standard performance. No one's going to notice. They're going to be they're just going to think you're me. I'm always raspy.
We've just swapped over for 1 week.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey guys, if you want to hear us rambling about our weeks, feel free to stick around. There will be time codes in the description, as always, and they will be shared by a friend of the show, an editing genius, Mr. Matthew Bliss. And we will share Mr. Matthew Bliss's details at the end of the show. Stick around if you're a budding podcaster, because he is the man.
And if you'd like, because we'd like, you can give us a 5-star review on the Apple
5-star, baby!
Review pod, wherever you view your podcasts, really. We'll take it anywhere.
Yeah, any podcast catcher of your choice. Spotify, Apple.
That's what we like to do.
Hit us up with a 5-star. It really does help wherever you want to do it. It's like a like, share, and subscribe, as you would say on YouTube, which we also have. But anyway, DL.
Yes.
What have you been up to this week?
I have been up to many, many things.
Many things? Bloody hell.
Because I've been sick. There's very few things to do other than wallow in your illness if you don't have some distractions, and no one likes that.
Self-pity?
So, yeah. Self-pity is one of the things I've been up to. No. So I did I think you would have noticed this because I would just send you random clips from this.
Oh, I noticed.
From the season 1 of True Detective. I did a rewatch because I just, as you guys remember, watched season 3. And so it made me really nostalgic for the new season. And so in doing so, in prepping for the new season, I watched season 1, and it's so good. It's honestly just as good on rewatch,
Isn't it
if not
the best?
better. It has such high rewatch value. I was just sending all the boys random clips from it throughout the week. So I binged that.
How far did you get through? All the way?
Yeah, I got through all the way. I mean, I started probably on the weekend last weekend, and then it took me a week. It was an episode or 2 a day.
That's one show that, and tell me how you feel about this, but that's one show that I liked so much that I'm going to hold off rewatching. for at least like 5 to like 10 years because I want it to have that same impact when I watch it again.
It will. I think the point is the dialogue is just so funny. And it's like it's so long-winded, and a lot of times you just forget about moments. Like,
yeah, okay.
But what I'll say is, for me, it has been 10 years. I think I watched it when it premiered in 2014.
Holy shit! Is it that old?
Yeah, it's so good.
God.
It's so fucking good.
You're giving me a midlife crisis right now.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was 10 years old.
You're a decade older. One of the big reasons why, though, I think it's understated why it's so good is it had the same director for the entirety of the season.
Oh.
So like the writer, Nick Palaziano or something, gets a lot of the credit. He's not on the fourth season, by the way. I think Netflix or someone snatched him up. But the reason he gets a lot of the credit, but a big part of it was, I think, the director's tone and just like the fact that you had the same director for the entire season, which does not happen often in television.
Not in TV shows.
No.
We learned that from Game of Thrones and the fact that it couldn't keep a consistent tone throughout most of its final 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, they had different directors.
That's super interesting.
Different directors the whole time. I think there was bigger things going on there. But yeah, no, it was good.
We have been continuing our reversed rewatch of the Mission Impossible franchise. Now, for anyone who hasn't caught up on the last couple of episodes, effectively we watched the new one, Dead Reckoning, me and my partner. And yeah, we have been going backwards through Mission Impossible movies for no apparent reason. So they're gradually getting worse, but we're still in the good ones. So this week we are up to Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Now, I don't know if you remember Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, DL.
I don't really. Honestly, I don't know why you'd put yourself through that.
I like these later ones. These later ones are great. They bring back a lot of cool stuff like Ethan Hunt on a motorbike.
Oh, yes.
You know,
who doesn't like that? Motorbike frontal spins.
It's not quite John Woo, but it does introduce a lot of very cool characters. So, for example, and I'm forgetting names here, Rebecca Ferguson's Ilsa Faust, that's right, introducing that character, who I actually really like as like a counterpart to Tom Cruise. I think she's really great. And she starts off as this sort of covert spy who you're not quite sure whether she's on his side or not on his side, even though she's helping. But she's also then trying to assassinate like a Norwegian diplomat of some description. It's a really cool character, and I really like what they did with that.
Yeah, like, don't know what else to say, but I'm glad you liked it because somebody's got to like these movies. They spend a bunch on them. They put them out. They market them. They put them out every 3 years. Like, somebody's got to go. So I'm glad they appeal to you.
It's just got one of those things that makes me really laugh about Hollywood. It's got a scene where they have a car chase with Tom Cruise and Simon Pegg in a car. And this is, honestly, I'm not sure if this is how Americans actually feel. You tell me, actually feel about driving a car. They have this thing where they're going at super high speed and they go off a big ledge and the car slams into the floor and they both would basically get their heads torn off. But in the film, because Tom Cruise tells Benji to put on his seatbelt, they both survive and then can just carry on with life. I'm like, yeah, is that what Americans think seatbelts
That's
do?
what we think, yeah. We invented the car, actually, and we're like, all right, seatbelts are, basically a get out of jail free card. Yeah, drive as fast as you want.
Oh, great.
Throw your car off a cliff. All good. You seatbelt on, thumbs up.
Well, this is the one anyway where Tom Cruise does the famous hanging onto the side of an airplane stunt. And I really like that. That's so well done.
Dude, that would be frightening. He's obviously strapped in.
It would be terrifying. Yeah, he is. They CGI out a lot of the harnesses and stuff, but like apparently they had to have like full eye covering like contact lenses because of obviously all the dust and shit that was flying at him. Terrifying.
How far did he fly, I wonder?
Pretty far. I mean, if you actually watch the film, a lot of it's in there. So and they had to do it multiple times.
Did you see the thing about Matt Damon? How he just like the interview with him where he's like, "Yeah, talking to Tom Cruise, he's super intense." And he was like, something like, "So how do you, Tom, why do you do this?" Right? And he's just like, "Or how do you pull this off?" He's like, "Well, I get a stunt director. I tell them what I want to do, and then when they tell me it's too dangerous, I get a new stunt director." Like he just like fires the people that are like, "No, we can't do it," until someone says yes. It's pretty wild.
Oh, amazing. Classic Tom Cruise. That is like, if there is a quintessential Tom Cruise quote, that has to be it.
Yeah, Matt Damon does a much better impression. I mean, he's an actor, so go find it. There's a couple of clips of him talking.
Well, you'd hope he'd be good at that. What else have you been up to, buddy?
I, as you would know, when we went and picked up the mic stuff, because I didn't want to contaminate Tommy with my illness.
Very kind.
You gave me The Witcher 3 so I could download it on the PS5 and play the new edition, which has, some new quests, some new updates, just basically looks better, plays better. The part I didn't realize is you have to download the PlayStation 5 version. So I basically got through the first hour and a half of the game, maybe 2 hours, where you're in that little tutorial area. Right, tutorial area where you're like trying to kill the griffin.
What did you say?
Tutorial area. And it's a long tutorial.
Oh, you never live in that one.
Tutorial. Down. It's a long tutorial.
Tutorial.
It's like at least 3 hours if you do all of it. And I'm like, man, like there's a couple changes, but like this doesn't really feel that different. And then I realized I had to download the PS5 version to get like 90% of the new shit.
Right.
And I had been playing the PS4 version. So I had to re-download it and then play it all again. So I'm very over I just got back up to where I was. I'm so over the intro section, which I've now played at least 5 times because I played this game before. So
I'm pretty sure I've told you this before. I played a certain amount, I thought what was quite a lot of that game, a good like 10 hours or whatever. And I went back to the UK last year for, when my dad was unwell and stuff. And I got it for the Switch and I was playing because it was like something to do. I didn't have my PlayStation there.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of other stuff. We've definitely talked about this before. And I played it for the full 3 months. And I only just got to the point where I got to when I left off when I was leaving Australia before I got back. And I was like, I don't care about this anymore.
Dude, it is.
This is too much.
It is such a fun game, though. I'm very into it. And the updates are very good. It makes the combat way more fun, more modern.
Right.
And it does look a lot better. I really do like it. They made changes to like, you can basically...
So what's the combat? How's the combat different?
Well, it's more like behind the shoulder now. You know how when you would fight, it would like kind of zoom out in these weird ways? They made it so it's just close up behind the camera. So, or behind the shoulder. So it's more like modern in that way. And like the battles are
more like Resi?
Yeah, or like Final Fantasy. Like, Final Fantasy, like, except for the big boss battles, you kind of have this behind the... It's closer than that. It's more like Resident Evil view. But the other part of it is like you can do signs like, the magic stuff quickly. Whereas before you had to go into this like slow menu. And so it is more like Final Fantasy, the newest one in that way, where it's like the magic is at the... Like it's way quicker. You can use it quickly. It's less role based or like time based. Like time would slow down and you would change your sign. Now you can do that with like a button press mid combat. So it's a lot more. The combat's more fun. I really like it.
That sounds great. Actually, maybe I'll give that a go at some point because the combat was one of the things that I didn't love about that game. Something a bit more free flowing and a bit more actiony would be.
Yeah,
good.
I mean it's still nuanced, but it's better, I think. And the last bit I'd say is there's like 2 expansions that are apparently better than the game that I just never played. So I'm pretty excited to play those too.
Is that the Blood and Wine one?
Yeah, there's 2. There's like Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know if I have the patience to get all the way through it to get to them, but maybe I'll try.
I say this, but maybe I'll get like, because you have to get to like level 30 to even play those. So like, I say this, but by the time I get there, maybe I'll take a break and be like, oh, I'm done. So we'll see.
It's so hard to upgrade your character in those games as well. I literally, I got on there and I was like, the thing I always do with those types of games is I would like to try and make my character significantly better so that when I'm playing through the story, it's almost a bit easier. So I flow through the story. I'd rather grind first, then do the story. Grind story, but you can't do that in these games because you get so little EXP.
You can,
it's like,
you just have to change the leveling. Like you have to change it to auto scale. But like your point, I guess they don't want you to do that in this. Like the actual main story, leveling is like way lower than some of the side stuff. Does that make sense? So they kind of want you to like finish the main story before you finish all the side quests. I think is like how they envision it.
That's interesting. That's weird as well.
Anyway, so I was doing that. What else, man? What are you doing?
I'll tell you one other thing I got up to. We talked about this very briefly last week. A new sort of series of shows on Netflix called Unknown. I think you talked about one briefly, and I caught up with one called The Lost Pyramid. So, super interesting.
Yep.
About an Egyptian archaeologist who... Well, it's very interesting how it starts. It is effectively saying that archaeology through the years has been almost exclusively white British men, if you've noticed that. So if you ever watch any of the documentaries about like archaeological digs in Egypt or anywhere in the world, it is almost exclusively these, middle-class white people, not people from where they are digging.
Yeah.
And it sort of puts this weird light on archaeology and a lot of you've probably heard the jokes that the British Museum is full of stuff they've stolen, which it is. the British History Museum, and this guy, he's this Egyptian archaeologist, and he wants to find this lost tomb of one of the ancient Egyptian kings, pharaohs, to bring a bit of his culture back to, Egypt and prove that it's not just these white dudes who can go off and do this. And it's really interesting that he thinks he's found this one specific area where this pyramid might be located, and they are effectively taking their time, excavating it carefully, but they've got like a really short time window before the winds come back. But it suffers from that thing we talked about, like either last week or the week before.
I think it was last week, yeah.
Yeah, Netflix has got this annoying habit of doing documentaries on unfinished stories. So like I got to the end of it and they hadn't finished the whole story. I was like, I want to know how this ends. I don't want to just know.
I mean, that's always like
this guy's out there.
That's always the hard part about documentary, though, I think, as well, is like, they're hit or miss because of that. Like you have to film it real time for it to be a documentary. And if you're doing that real time, you actually don't know how it ends when you're filming it. So it's kind of
totally 100%. But like, at least wait until there is some sort of logical conclusion.
Content, Thomas.
Content. Apologies.
Yeah.
What am I saying?
Yeah. How did you feel about like, being a Graham Hancock fan? We talked about this a bit last week, and watching this, do you feel that there is a level of, I guess, bias, or I guess kind of insensitivity to new ideas coming from the Egyptian archaeologists that you kind of watch in that documentary, or do you think that that's
interesting?
Maybe overstated or not relevant?
I don't think in this one it has a lot of focus on that. I think it does a really good job of focusing on the fact that this is an Egyptian archaeologist who a lot of their history has been, overrun by, like I say, middle-class white people stealing their treasures, to be honest with you, and their wins. So it sort of steers around that a little bit, and it doesn't dive too close to it. But the timeframes of this Egyptian pharaoh suggest that it's pretty old. So yeah, I guess there's some hints towards that type of thing, but doesn't really get too close.
It doesn't touch on some of the. Okay, fair enough. It's probably more in the details than the wider sphere.
Yeah, I think it's more about the white hero-ness of British culture.
Oh, joy.
Well, I mean, sort of saying, yeah, but he's trying to be the first to have his name recognized as being an Egyptian archaeologist finding this tomb, which I think it's really awesome, and I like that, I like the fact that Netflix is shining a light on that, but also at the same time shining a light on the fact that, as a white culture, we have appropriated a lot of things we probably shouldn't have for a long time.
Yeah. Fair enough, man.
Anyway, tell me your final thing you've been up to this week, dear.
I'm going to debate between two, and I'm going to go with the on and off of the Amber Heard Johnny Depp Netflix documentary, because my partner was watching that. I mean, it is like kind of popcorn shit, right? Like you feel guilty. You're like, why do I want to watch this? And as you're watching it, you're just like so intrigued. I can't tell you why. I think it's mainly because you're like, how could something get so toxic that this is where it ends up? And it's like fascinating, to watch that. But
interesting.
He literally is a real life Jack Sparrow. Like he just is. He literally is. Like he's crazy. He's wild. I can't believe it. Anyway, I if you want to watch it, it's definitely entertaining. Gail put it on.
You reckon? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So you'd recommend?
I mean, like as like a background thing where you're just like not having to focus, like you can't really beat it. Yeah.
I really like when how he changed the public's perception of him within those hearings, and he would just sort of sit there and just be the politest pirate you've ever seen.
Yeah, but still a pirate.
He looks like a pirate.
Yeah, I mean, like for how old is he?
Oh, he's 50s now. He's definitely 50s by now.
For how old he is and the amount of like drugs he's definitely done. Yeah, so 1963. So he is at least
60.
Yeah, almost 60. The crazy part is for the amount of like shit he's done, he still looks, not great, but not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, good on him. My favorite story is about Keith Richards, and he's obviously the lead guitarist from the Rolling Stones, that he basically did so many drugs that he had this like life motto of if he was still alive at 60, he would just go teetotal and just like if like he's making a gamble with the devil. Like if I make it this far, I'll stop everything. And he did. And now he's like been completely clean for like 30 years or whatever it is. So it's pretty awesome
weird.
Story. Could you imagine though?
Weird. Some people can just handle it though.
You are that hardcore. I don't know, man. Like you're that hardcore into it and you just stop cold turkey.
I just think maybe you'd just be ready. You know what I mean? Like you just be like, fuck, I wish I would have stopped this 20 years ago. But like I kept on. You know what I mean? Like I think he probably would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's probably looking forward to it.
His body's just like, give me some water, please.
Any kind of electrolyte. Just like gets zipped right up like a fucking vacuum cleaner.
All right. Final one from me then before we move on. We have finally managed to find 5 minutes. I say 5 minutes because it was a 3.5 hour movie. We finally managed to find 3.5 hours to sit down and watch The Return of the King, the final installment in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. And oh my God, is that a good film?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just the whole trilogy is a pretty, like, it's a masterpiece, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
In terms of like execution, it all holds up well still, like the way they did the special effects.
Some of them not so much. Oh, some of them
I think
bad.
for the most part, it's pretty damn good. Like
for the most part, it's
fucking
insane.
Cool.
Oh, Balrog's amazing. The scenes with the Witch King are just insanely good. Like the bit where she's like, but I am no man. Loved that. That's amazing. Some of the Gollum stuff doesn't hold up as well, and that was a bit that I was really surprised by how poorly it held up. Like I know it's all CGI and it's like groundbreaking technology, but like the texture of him doesn't fit with like what's behind him. Like he's too bright. There's not enough shadow on that character when he's in scenes.
Yeah, no, I get your point, but like he's still pretty good for CGI. But I take your
amazing.
point. You got to remember, when were these made? Like
2004 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Go find a couple 2002 movies and you compare that. You'd be like, what? Like a 2-year difference? But I take your point.
Like 2003, for 2003 it is. Sorry, 2003. I'm absolutely not like shitting on this because it's just like a masterpiece of cinema. But just with that little, reflective eye, they could release like an updated version for 2023.
I'm sure they will.
Improve some of the special effects. I don't think they would. Well, I mean, they would make money out of it, but at the same time, it's one of those timeless classics. Why would you?
I don't know. Star Wars did. Like back in like the 90s, they made like.
Well, that's George Lucas. He's obsessed with changing things. Come on, man. Don't give me that shit.
Who knows if it was even him? My point is, it could happen. You never know.
It's so funny though. We got to the end of the movie, and my partner was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And then we looked, and we realized there was still like 45 minutes to go. I was like,
you mean like the Mount Doom part?
Yeah,
where they're on Mount Doom, and you're like, wow, it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, no, it's not.
And then I was telling her, I was like, oh, it's like this in the books. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, the books like finish halfway through, and then there's just ending after ending after ending, and like the one with Saruman trying to take over the Shire, and then all that stuff, and you're like, oh my God.
I never read that. I don't remember reading that part in the books. I think I just skipped it. But the thing I will say is like, I think Return of the King is actually my, like, if you ranked them, the third, like
least
it's
favorite.
Third for me. Yeah. I think it actually does go like crazy enough. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Because, well, the first one, I just think about like the Mines of Moria are just some of the most compelling viewing I think I've ever been involved in. It's almost like a horror film, like stuffed into the middle of this amazing adventure fantasy quest,
and the building up of like the like call to action, and like the threat, like that. It's just really, really compelling.
The Balrog when it finally shows, just amazing. And the fly, you fools! I love it all. But then I'd agree with you. The second one is probably the second best one. I'd say like the bit where Gandalf brings the Riders of Rohan over the hill at the exact right moment. It's it's so good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Sean Bean's in it as well. So.
I forgot how much narration there is in them. Like they subtly weave it in. Like
it's great, and it's all. What's that woman's name?
She does some of it. She does some of it, but then there's random bits that you forget about. Like Elrond does a fair amount. And there's a fair amount from Gandalf at times, and you're like, I've totally forgotten about this. But I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we took the 25 hours to watch these 3 movies out of our lives. Thank you, New Zealand, for making me watch these movies again, because what a great way. What a great way to honor being in, Queenstown and the rest of our trip to New Zealand. Look, what we do now, guys, is we talk a little bit about what we say is the news, but it's really just fun things we've seen, mostly on Instagram, and we call it Have You Heard? DL, what have you heard this week?
Well, there's been quite a bit of stuff.
So much stuff.
I'll start with maybe we just do Gamescom all in one. I can just drop that right now. There's a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah, interestingly, I have not had much of an opportunity over the last few days to really pay attention to it, but there's 1 or 2 bits I'd like to talk about. So you hit me with yours.
So everyone knows I'm a survival horror fan, and everyone also knows that I'm like a low-key Alan Wake fan from way back when.
You're a survival horror fan? I thought you only liked Indians. Indians? I thought you only liked Westerns.
Wow.
I was going to say Cowboys and Indians. I don't think you can say that anymore.
I do love Indians. Yeah, so there's they did a big drop for Alan Wake 2, and it looks really cool. It looks very much like they've doubled down into like survival horror, over the shoulder, all that good stuff.
Awesome.
And the cool part about it, I think, is going to be that like this is the premise of that story is someone like he's writing a story that's become real and they're trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
Like you can just reuse that in like so many ways. Like they could keep this iterating because like it's basically it's Pandora's box. It's like all of fiction could become the plot of this game. So it's like you just have a lot you can creatively work with over the years. So I think this is going to be the start of like a pretty big franchise, frankly.
It's almost like a more interesting version of It Was All a Dream All Along,
Yeah. Except like weird and, I just think they'll be able to iterate on it really well.
Well, it's wherever the imagination can go, right?
Yeah, a reignition of this, like, kind of what it's never been a franchise that was like sold a bunch of stuff. It's kind of been like a cult classic indie thing, but I think they're going to turn it into something a bit bigger. So that was really cool.
Did you ever play that Control game? I believe it's called.
No.
So I downloaded it. 'Cause it got really good reviews, but no one ever played it. So I played like a bit of it when it came out, and it's this weird. I don't know why I didn't finish it. I think I moved house halfway through and never got around to finishing it. But it's this weird story of this female protagonist. She's in this weird building, and she's got telekinesis. I can't describe to you the story. It's very odd. But the point of it is that because it's made by the same developers, there are a lot of subtle nods and winks to Alan Wake. So some people think that perhaps they're building sort of a gaming cinematic-y universe type thing, which would be kind of cool. I do remember that.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm excited to play it anyway. They
Nice.
dropped like 40 minutes. It looks good.
40 minutes?
Yeah, it was like a 40-minute demo. It was like the whole chapter.
It's a demo.
I didn't watch all of it. Yeah.
You going to play it?
I didn't watch all of it. Yeah, for sure. I'll play it eventually.
Yeah, nice. I mean the demo, not the game.
Oh, no, not going to play the demo. I'll wait for it.
I love the return of demos, by the way. Like, they've made a real comeback in the last, 3 to 5 years. Have you noticed that?
I don't know why, but yes, they have.
But
like beta testing.
Yeah, demos used to be the best. Demos used to be so cool when you get like a disc,
I had a demo for upcoming.
Yeah, you'd buy a PlayStation magazine and it would have 10 demos on. You'd have like Crash Bandicoot and all this crazy shit, and you'd get the first level of the game. I used to love that stuff.
I mean, it is a good way to get people hooked, I would think.
Totally. And you used to get it as well in games. So if you bought a brand new game, sometimes you would have a demo disc for other games from the same developer on there too.
So
you get a taste of them. Yeah.
Rare did a lot of that. You're right.
Yes. And then they just vanished out of the blue. And now they're kind of making a comeback. And I really like it. It's sort of showing off different elements of things that maybe you might not have played previously. And games are so expensive now. I spend too much money on games that I play 15 minutes of and then never play again. And I stopped me buying video games. It's really bad. I've had too many bad experiences.
That's why you need Game Pass, bro. But I'm a PS5 guy now, so I can't really use Game Pass.
You've been turned to the dark side.
Yeah, I really have. It's funny. I'm like one of those rare people that converted like every other generation.
I think you've talked about this.
Yeah.
You started with PlayStation?
I started with like Nintendo.
Oh.
Then what was first, PlayStation or N64?
Great question. They were very similar times.
I think I had both of those.
Okay. Fancy pants.
Yeah, I eventually got the Xbox and stayed with the Xbox for like 3 generations, then went back to PlayStation.
Okay.
The in other news from Gamescom, there was some stuff around. Did you see this Starfield leak?
I was going to talk about this. It's not a
Dude,
leak. I think they
talk about
released like an absolute ton of footage. I don't think a lot of it's gameplay though, because it's all very cinematic. But oh my God, they released a lot and it looks spectacular.
It looks crazy. It looks like Indiana Jones meets like space travel, which is what a bunch of people, I think even the game director described it as. But there was a leak as well. Some guy leaked basically a pre-cut copy of the game. He stole it somehow. And then he got caught. He was trying to sell it. Yeah. And he was like some hacker. Anyway, that was
holy shit.
Kind of a peripheral news to it. But yeah, it looks cool. It looks so big. It's one of those games I'm going to just like wait. It's probably going to be buggy. I have a feeling it's going to be buggy. It's going to be cyberpunky and not that bad maybe, but like it's just one of those ones where it's better to wait.
Yeah, I'd
Let
agree.
the mods figure some shit out. Like
I would agree. I mean? But also, wouldn't you need to have an Xbox to play or a PC?
Oh, true. Is it an Xbox exclusive now?
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. And like whether it would ever come out on PlayStation, who knows?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not spending all that money on Xbox to play this one game that I'll play for 2 hours, then never play again.
unless it's like a fucking 12 out of 10. But even so, it's just so big. It's one of those games like I'm scared to start.
It would suck your entire life up.
Yeah.
And I know you, DL. I know it would suck your entire life up.
Yeah, it happens to me, man. It's these games are dangerous.
Do you still have the old Xbox?
I have an Xbox. No, I have like a Xbox One or something.
Maybe one. I don't know.
I have that one. I have an old version of that one. It could be crapping out at any point.
So you wouldn't buy it. You wouldn't buy this and see if you could play it on it.
Nah, no. I mean, like, and I'd wait for the reviews. To be fair,
fair play.
But honestly, it's like so hard for me to like play a game on the old generation when I know I have the new one. It's like something about it is just like I'm not getting the best experience. Like I feel FOMO.
I'm still happy to buy the PlayStation 4 version of games and then just wait for the download for the PlayStation 5 to come all the way down.
For sure.
Because you're paying like $30 less.
You save like $80. Like I was looking at the Witcher one, it's like $80.
Unbelievable.
Like instead, I just got the free upgrade.
I did see at the Gamescom, they released a bunch of footage of Armored Core 6, which is the upcoming game from the guys who make the Bloodborne series. Wait, is that right? Soulsborne, that's what they say. The Soulsborne series. Yeah. And it just looks nuts. It looks like some crazy anime, I don't know, I can't even describe it to you, mixed with Transformers, fighting each other, and apparently your whole robot thing is completely customizable. You can change everything and do all the stats and
it's like the mech game.
Yeah.
It's like the mech game. Yeah.
Insane. I'm totally going to get that. I was kind of waiting for that Lies of P game, because that's apparently a Soulsborne style game. Looking at it, and a few friends of the show have maybe hinted that it's not supposed to be as good as maybe people think it looks. So I think now I'm going to just wait for this. Even though this Armored Core 6 isn't going to be a Soulsborne influenced game, as in like the gameplay is not going to be the same type of thing. It's going to be very true to the original according to the creators. But like, it just looks cool. And I'm like, you know, a little bit of your brain, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never got into those mech like anime things. Like, there was a bunch of those that were like on as Saturday morning cartoons, and it was never really my thing. But like, I can understand like people that had, and it was obviously big. Yeah, that had that kind of inclination. This would be like, you know, manna from heaven.
Like, I never got into them, but I could appreciate that it looked cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You seem like a mech guy. I don't know, man. You seem like a mech guy.
I mean, what do you want from me?
As a mech guy.
What do you want from me? What was the main one? Gundam Wing? Gundam something.
Yes, that's what it was. There were so many like TV series about. There was like Gundam 7 or I don't.
Yeah. Apparently
it was Cartoon Network or some shit.
Apparently it skips around. Like the first couple series aren't very good. Then it got like a refresh, and the next one's like the best ones or something. If anyone knows anything about the Gundam series, hit us up. You can find us at Podcast Assemble or the podcastassemble@gmail.com. We would love to know, because I know nothing about Gundam, and you know, I'd watch it. I'd give it a go. I'm at that stage in life where I'd go back and check this stuff out.
Fair enough, man. Well, to be fair, man, I can't believe you haven't mentioned this one from Gamescom. You being a dinosaur lover, a never forget kind of guy. Never forget. there's a game coming out called Death Ground that's like all about, dinosaurs.
Right.
And,
Okay.
I don't know it was a teaser trailer. I have no context other than it's like people creeping around trying to avoid dinosaurs and, some gunplay with dinosaurs. And I don't know if you've ever played Dino Crisis back in the day. That was like a Capcom thing. It kind of looks like a modern first person version of that.
That sounds insane. Tell me that again. I'm going to save it to watch when we finish talking.
Death Ground.
Like I say, I haven't had a huge amount. I put in Death Group. That's not a. That's not a thing.
That's something different, mate.
That's not a thing.
Definitely something different. Culty vibes.
Yeah. Tom Cruise is probably involved in that somehow. Like I say, I haven't had a lot of time to catch up with the Gamescom stuff as of yet, but that is one that would have totally caught my eye. I'm sure it would have done. Dino Crisis was the bomb.
Yeah,
bring that back.
I want them to remake that, dude. I think Capcom will, dude. Capcom has found this cash engine of their RE4 engine just remaking every game they've ever made. They'll do that with Dino Crisis for sure. Eventually, and it'll be super fucking cool, dude. Can you imagine Dino Crisis over the shoulder view, basically Turok but third person?
Imagine
there's a lot of references.
The arcade games they'll create from that. It will be insane.
It'll be dope. And then the last one for me from Gamescom, just real quickly, Fallout TV series sneak peek, which that could be an interesting. That's a very, very interesting IP for long form television. I think it could be really good. It has the potential to be.
I've never played Half-Life. I'm that guy, but I know
Fallout.
if it's
Fallout.
Sorry. I've never played Fallout. I don't know why Half-Life is on my brain at that exact moment, but I do know of its cultural significance, especially I think it's Fallout New Vegas, which is the one everybody loves. And there's a couple of them.
I've never played that. Is it PC only?
I don't think so. I think you get it on everything.
I tried to find it used and I couldn't find it anywhere. Anyway, that's one that I've never played. I played the original one before that. I think it was Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, but I never played New Vegas.
Interesting. Because isn't Fallout 4 the one that was just a buggy mess?
It was, but I played it years after, so they figured it out. They'd fixed it.
The classic DL.
Yeah. When it comes to those games, you have to do that because all those I never know how to say it. Bethesda.
What do you say? What do you always say? You always say it wrong.
Bethesda. Bethesda son? I don't know. Yeah, Bethesda.
You'll get there.
When it comes to those games, they're definitely, buggy on release. That's why I'm worried about Starfield. But what were you going to say about Fallout?
Oh, nothing at all. I think it has the opportunity, the visual style of it and the long form storytelling and the twists and the turns. It 100% has great possibilities to be a TV show.
Yeah, and also just the morality. There's a lot. It's a very, very gray. It's kind of similar to The Witcher in a nuclear apocalyptic wasteland, which is such a long form TV show premise as well. Just
maybe they'll dumb it down then for American audiences.
I hope not.
That is a callback, ladies and gentlemen, to last week when I was talking about The Witcher. Anyway, moving on very swiftly. One of the things I've heard this week, and I think I might have sent to you, is that apparently there are rumors about a Thor 5 being in development. Now, how do you feel about this, DL?
Look, I think if there's enough IP for them to make a Thor 5, right?
I mean, there's years of history.
And Hemsworth is good. So if he's still motivated and wants to be Thor, awesome, right?
Yeah.
I think he's one of the rare actors that can be comedic and super, super dramatic and have me believe both. In a blockbuster style movie. Now, if they've got teddy bears shooting light out from children as the climax of the movie, I'm going to be pretty bummed.
This all came from director Taika Waititi, who was doing an interview and effectively saying that if they were to bring the character back, they would need to take it a brand new direction, which is totally true, right? I think they maybe dove a little bit too far into the comedy in the last one, but this has currently got the Star Trek treatment. So you know how Star Trek's got that weird thing of every odd film is a bad one? I feel like this is the same. The first one was good. The second one was crap. The third one was...
the second one Dark Elves?
Yes.
Yeah, that one's bad.
It's bad. It's really and then the third one was Ragnarok, which was probably one of the better films. And then the fourth one was pretty bad. So the fifth one can only be good, really, right?
Well, you got to hope that they tie it into a Loki return. You know what I mean? Of
bringing him back.
Some kind. Tie him back to the main story in a way that's with the gods and... I think that's where
different Loki, right? This is a from a different
it
timeline.
is. That's why it'll be interesting. And like Thor will only be as interesting if it has like an impact, I think, on the broader story, because he's such a powerful, he's one of the big players.
Yeah,
so for him to just be in isolation with teddy bears shooting light out of their chests, like care fucking bears, like I don't care.
Well, this is one of the things that Taika Waititi was talking about. He basically said that, if you were to bring him back, you would have to have him against significantly more powerful beings. Not that Christian Bale's character, whose name I've completely forgotten off the top of my head, God the God Butcher, isn't a very powerful character, because he is. They just didn't do him justice in that film. But you would have to have him against some hectic level characters, because Thor's like one of the top 5 most powerful heroes, surely.
Yeah, and it's more like, I mean, as much as that matters to you, I think it's more like, you got to care about the character journey and the threat and all that. And
that's what I'm saying. Exactly. And we're saying the same thing.
Who does Thor care about these days? Yeah. Who does Thor care about?
Well, I mean, it's clearly the daughter at this point from the end of the latest one, Love and Thunder. But I think that's what I'm trying to get at. So, like, if you think about the Superman paradox, let's call it, how do you care about a villain to Superman? Because he's gonna beat them. So Thor's similar. Like, he's super powerful. He's probably gonna beat them anyway. Like, you've got to have someone who's actually a threat to him, or at least more intelligent than him.
Or a threat to someone new that he cares about, right?
Yes.
Like Loki reintroduced a family member. Like, he's been so alone I don't know. I'm pretty stoked on the potential. Like, there's a lot you could do, but
yeah,
we'll see if they do it.
And I think Kevin Feige has been trying to squeeze in every single story ever, from all the good stories anyway, from the recent, at least, Marvel comics, before he eventually, steps back from making Marvel movies. And, maybe if you do some of the smaller scale storytelling, give Thor some proper real threats and familial ties to be worried about, you could make a good story. You can still make good stories, can't you, DL? You can still make good stories. Well, DL, final bit from me this week is, did you hear, or did you see, well, we've actually talked about this, so I know you did, but did you see the Rebel Moon trailer, the new Zack Schneider Netflix joint? What are your thoughts?
Fuck that, dude. It's like an orgy of everything sci-fi. Like, literally, you could not make a trailer that had more just like nods and sexual innuendos towards, not really sexual innuendos, but just had a lot of influence from, like, Dune,
totally.
Star Wars, like every sci-fi thing ever.
Well, you said this.
Yeah.
It looks unique in the from the perspective that it pulls from franchises that maybe haven't been slammed into a movie before in the same right. So you said Dune, you said Star Wars, you said Avatar, and like Hunger Games. I saw like flashes of Harry Potter in there, flashes of things like Firefly, the beloved TV show that only got one series. It's got like everything.
Yeah, stylistically, it looks like you just,
Well, it's so Zack Snyder.
So it's like, is that going to be a positive or a negative? Like, are we just going to get a smorgasbord of like really cool looking things that all feel a bit like reused? Or is it going to have like a really unique, like, are we just getting a poo-poo platter of like the highlights of every franchise we already like?
Or is it a charcuterie board of beautiful things that we all want to see on the same screen?
Yeah, that are uniquely complementary to each other in a like really great story. One thing that sounds cool about it is it just sounds like it could be all these franchises except adult. Which that would be, like, he's not going to be afraid of like
very
sex and moral questions that like a Disney or a, basically any of them but Dune would be afraid of.
I agree. 100% agree. And I feel it is Zack Snyder, so likely it's going to be a kids movie, except they say fuck a few times. And there's maybe a sex scene, like, I feel like that's how he makes his movies. It is the base. Look, I'm shitting on Zack Snyder here. I think he's significantly better than this, but I feel like he does get the very base storytelling or like the very base of a story, and then just adds loads of visual style, loads of like, as you say, innuendo and calls to other movie franchises, but doesn't take the story further than its base level. And that's like, we saw that with the zombie one he did recently. There's nothing to that film. It's like, I need more from these movies.
The risk is they just like look, stylistically it looks crazy. Like the trailer looks fucking it's like, as far as trailers go, it's like up there as like one of the ones where you're like, holy shit, that was crazy. But could it just end up being just that? All style, no flavor. Like I just worry, you're creating this new world. Do you have enough time to build the world in a way that is impactful to the plot and characters when you've got like from what I saw of like the 4-minute trailer, there's so much spectacle. Like where are the small moments that make the spectacle worth anything? Like we'll see.
Well, what annoys me is that Zack Schneider movies make $1 billion just because of his cult status, but Denis Villeneuve movies, which are infinitely better looking, full characters, should be some of the most renowned movies of all time, make fuck all at the box office. Like, just go and see the movies.
They're critically acclaimed. But they probably have lower budgets than a lot of the ones Zack Snyder does. So, I mean, they might per capita.
Well, I don't know. The likes of Blade Runner had a pretty big budget. Dune had a pretty
that one did. Yeah.
But you can't really use Dune as an example because they literally just threw it onto streaming during COVID. So whatever Dune 2 does, I think is going to be a better sort of litmus test for how his, movies really fare. But anyway, DL, we've talked about Zack Snyder way too much and way too often. Let's shift on to our final bit of news. And before we do, why don't you guys hit us up at Podcast Assemble or thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. Send us memes, send us stuff, send us news. We love it when you do. I've been pretty bad at calling it out recently, but we will be better. And there are things that I normally say now that I've completely forgotten. DL, what is your final piece of news?
Yeah, my final piece of news is topical to our main topic. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for that.
Is it a segue?
This is a segue, a news segue.
I love it.
Have you seen the rumors? Because there is an actor strike going on, but not in Britain.
Yes,
or
as we talked about.
There's been rumors that there is like low-key casting auditions going on for the Harry Potter series that Warner Brothers and HBO are kind of releasing.
We've talked about this a couple of
trying
times.
to release. Yeah, and so there's been some like low-key for the last 3 months. Apparently, there's been like low-key casting and work being done.
Low-key casting one of the rumors for the TV show?
No, low-key, low-key.
Sorry, I'm back on my bullshit. I can't help myself.
Yeah, one of the key rumors was that, as we did predict, Hermione Granger is being like, they're looking for like an African American or black. Not African American, black actress.
Interesting.
To play that role.
Interesting. Are there any casting rumors?
No, beyond that, nothing. It's been pretty tight-lipped. But you got to imagine. Yeah, you got to imagine it. They haven't said anything. It's just like, it's rumors that like people are going to auditions, right? Like, you know how like you get the audition. The way that works is you get like your agent calls or you get the reel. You get like a text that's like, hey, we need you to, say these lines for these characters for a potential fantasy. And like, you're not allowed to say anything about it, but people tell their friends, right? And so that's, I think, what's happening. And I think it's mainly, given the strike, all, English actors. Because that's the way Harry Potter was last time as well.
I mean, I think that was one of the stipulations of J.K. Rowling signing Harry Potter over to Warner Brothers, was that they only use British actors, if I remember correctly, anyway.
I don't know if that carries through, but it seems like they're trying to. I think they should.
Well, as we are going to be talking about one of these fabulous movies today, should we save and maybe come back to this and do a little bit of fan casting of our own towards the end?
Yeah, let's close it out with that.
I love it. I love it.
I agree.
Let's talk about some of the characters who are brand new to this film and say who we might want to fan cast them.
Yeah.
Okay, then, DL, do you want to preface our main topic?
Of course, man. So we're making progress on another anthology. This time, for some reason, we just pick like the middle of the end of August to do Harry Potter.
I don't know why. It's like an annual thing.
This is where winter and Christmas in July or Christmas in August. I don't fucking know. Call it what you will. But we're doing the next iteration.
Well, what this means is we're going to have to do this for another 5 years so we can finish off these movies.
Yeah, fair enough. And we're on number 3. If you've been following, we're 1, 2, and now we're on the Harry Potter year 3, the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Harry Potter, and he's back on his bullshit. You know the one.
Yeah,
we're back, baby.
There's a new threat. Albus Dumbledore's fucked up again and let somebody into Hogwarts he shouldn't. Like, that's what we're at. So with that, shall I jump into a dumb summary?
Please.
Harry Potter 3.
Please.
All right. My dumb summary. In attempts to match the intensity of their director, Alfonso Cuarón, and his Harry Potter debut with a darker tone, Harry and the gang are really trying to be real actors now. And it shows.
Nice. I like that a lot. Mine's not simple in yours, DL. It's simply Harry Potter and the reason obesity is so prevalent in the world. Depression is apparently cured by chocolate.
Oh, jeez. I mean, yeah, dude, it could be argued.
That's kind of the sort of thing. Anyway, well, we are carrying on with our Harry Potter anthology, as DL mentioned. And one thing I like to do before we get into this is ask, where were you when this came out? Like, were you up to date with the books? Were you watching these movies as they came out at this point? What was your POV?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, like, I think the first 2 books were out by the time I caught on.
Yeah.
Or maybe the first 3. Yeah, it was the first 3. And the movies started coming out way after that, right? So I definitely was caught up when this, like, I'd already read whatever books were out. I think it would probably been the 4th or the 5th book when this came out, maybe.
Well, this is ironically 2004 that we were just talking about. So, yeah, I was exactly the same. I think I probably jumped on after the 3rd book, maybe the 4th. I think I jumped on when the 4th book came out. But as you say, these were coming out a little bit delayed. I was on the movies as they were coming out too. So this was a pretty big one. And it's got that darker tone you were talking about. And I really like that. And we will get into that. But can you guess for me the current IMDb score for this movie?
The current IMDb score for this movie would be, God, Harry Potter fans are divisive on movies.
Oh, yeah.
7.5.
Ooh, it's 7.9. Really up there for the
higher
IMDb
than I thought.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the Rotten Tomatoes score, which is a percent?
78.
Oh, it's 90%. That's high, absurd. Baby.
I mean, it is. I guess I got to remember, like, they did like this one a lot more because it was darker back when it came out.
Yeah,
like,
and
I think
people
liked it because of that.
Moved away from a lot of the kiddiness of the original too. And the final one then, before we move on, is our Letterboxd score, which, remember, is all fans. So, and it's out of 5.
Yeah. Fans would be lower. I gotta imagine. It's 3.
No, it's 4.1 out of 5. So this one seems pretty roundly loved. As you mentioned, it is from the 3rd in 3 director, Alfonso Cuarón, who, admitted before making this that he'd actually never read the Harry Potter the novels. So he's a bit like the new Dumbledore. But, however, he did actually put the time in because apparently Guillermo del Toro, favorite of the show, convinced him to read the books before coming in and doing this, which, kind of would help, you'd assume.
For sure. And actually, when I think about it, like, this is the one that at least they, like, stuck to the plot beats pretty well. So,
definitely.
I should have known that, and that would have, made fans a little happier. Plus, you got to just imagine when you look at the timeline of the book releases. So, June 2003 is when Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix book was released. And so you basically had the book where, serious spoilers for anyone who hasn't known.
Spoilers, what happens? Don't tell me.
In that book. And so this is the introduction of Sirius Black as a character right after we know. So, like, there's probably some hype around that as well.
Completely agree. And I think there was probably a lot of links between the two within media at the time. Not that I bloody remember, but it's funny you mention that because they're, like, obviously all of the old crew are back. We've got favorite of the show, Daniel Radcliffe. We've got a bunch of others, everyone who's huge in these films, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, etc. But there are some really interesting additions to the character build. So Gary Oldman joins this as Sirius Black, who, by the way, what a fucking legend. Love that guy.
Yeah.
He's in so many cool things. We've got Robert Hardy as Cornelius Fudge, who I genuinely think is really, really good in this. We've got David Thewlis as Professor Lupin. Again, fantastic. We have Timothy Spall as Peter Pettigrew. And we have the best addition to the cast, DL. It is definitely Michael Gambon as Albus Dumbledore.
On opposite day.
Yeah, if speaking of someone who probably didn't read the books before playing the role, pretty sure he's one of them.
Yeah, he is. Look, I think for the most part, the new additions I'm a big fan of. When you got Professor Lupin, Pettigrew, Sirius Black.
100%.
He's the only one where I'm like, he just doesn't embody Dumbledore at all.
He just bugs me.
He really could have benefited from reading. the way like it's pretty dumb to say, but like the way he just like personifies the character is like the antithesis for the most part of I think how the character is actually displayed in
completely
in and it's to his detriment because there's like he's really really intense and then does like the acts that he the things he does because the plot requires them, like being very very loose with the rules with shit like all these kids, like conflict with that character, like
completely.
the intensity he brings to all these other situations. You're like, you wouldn't just give a time turner to a 12-year-old or whatever 13-year-old.
You're getting ahead of it, Jill.
There's not the softness to him.
Let's reel that back in. I could see the anger boiling in you already.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the overall plot of this movie. What happens?
Yeah.
And why do you love it so much?
We follow Harry in his third year at Hogwarts, where shocker, something's trying to get him, and that something we surmise is the escaped felon or murderer Sirius Black, and we don't really know why
he's very serious.
He is who he is. We know he's killed a bunch of people. We don't know why he's coming after Harry, but Harry and everyone else seems to know pretty instantly. You might want to just fucking tell the kid. Anyway, the point is he's coming after Harry, and we get to see the journey of really Harry as he uncovers this mystery. At a high level.
As Harry meets Dementors. I think that's the overall view of this film.
As he approaches fear.
Yeah, I liked what you mentioned there at the very beginning about the whole changing of the sort of tone of these movies. And you can see it gets darker and darker from here on out. And there's a really funny meme someone sent me whereby you can tell which Harry Potter movie it is by how dark the Warner Brothers logo is, because by the end of it, it's practically black.
It's just black.
Yeah. It's like it starts off all light and bubblegum.
They want to paint it black.
Yeah. But it's so good. And like there's a lot of really fun, interesting new additions to this movie, and I like a lot of them. So like it introduces the idea of the Marauders and the Marauders map. Things from the books which are really pivotal and, really drive the plot forward in interesting ways. Things like seeing Peter Pettigrew on the map and how that works. I think some of the world building in this is some of the best from all of the movies. Obviously, the first one sets like a world. The second one sort of just carries that on a little bit. It's very similar in the tone of it. But like this one really gives it its own uniqueness, I would say.
I agree. I do think they got the tone right. I would have almost liked to see more of a little bit of Azkaban flashes to it, but we get a bit of that, I think. I think we get a bit of it.
Oh, you wait, my man. We're going to be talking about that in trivia, true or false.
But like overall, I think the tone, all that stuff, the new additions, like the actual script, like to your point, like I think is probably one of the tightest and most true to form
Agreed.
Harry Potter movies of all of them. The part that just kills me is just like, God, like I honestly used to like this movie a lot more than I do after this rewatch. And it's because this rewatch killed it for me, because I was just in a bad state because I've been sick, but I just noticed how bad the kid acting is. It's right. So bad. And I think it's like
finally
more
getting on board
easy
with me after 3 movies.
No, but like of course I'm on board. I've always been on board with Daniel Daftcliffe, but like the broader like actors that I thought like were mostly good, like just weren't. And I guess like the part that's like harder to accept, I think, is that becomes like more readily apparent and like cringy as they become teenagers. Whereas when they're kids, they're kind of oblivious to like overacting. They're just being themselves a bit more at times. And it's like more acceptable because it's a kid. Just in your brain, you can rationalize it. But as like these preteen, tweeners, it's just, it grinds my gears, Thomas. It just it grinds. And I've got many a moment to point out, but I'd say at a high level, that's what really took me out of this movie, is like the level of acting when you compare like a Sirius Black or a Professor
it's a real
Lupin.
Weird juxtaposition, isn't it? Yeah,
to the people they're interacting with is so bad in comparison that it's tough.
I never thought about it like that. You're completely right, and it throws me a lot, this film, because like the very opening scenes, so all of the dialogue with Harry's awful auntie, and he's back with the Dursleys for some reason, even though they're horrible human beings, like all of that. Yeah, I know that, but at this point you don't really know that. but like all of that is super strong to me. Super strong. All that stuff with Aunt Petunia being back to herself, and this person who's even worse to him being in the house, like real strong. And then she floats away. There's a few plot holes within that entire part of the movie, but that's just in that first scene. But like I think it's so good, and from my perspective anyway, tell me how you feel, but like it's so good, the opening is so strong that you quickly forget, like when you get to the next scenes where you're in not Hogsmeade, where are they at? Then Diagon Alley, and you're seeing Harry talking to some of these other awesome actors. You kind of forget how bad he is for a hot second.
You're right. The first 30 minutes of this movie is really good.
So strong.
It's like funny. It's like really sharp and like quippy, and like the bus scene is pretty weird and fun. You can
I love that bus
scene. Stan Shumpike, that. It's really good. It's more like in the middle where it kind of falls apart with me from the acting. And there's a wall of shame that I've got that we can go through at some point.
I can't wait for that. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Tough.
I like the stakes in this as well, though, because this is the only book or movie which doesn't have Voldemort as the direct antagonist specifically. And I kind of like that they changed it up. It's different. and it makes you think, like he isn't the only dark wizard out there, or the person that you need to be, concerned about at all times. And it gives you a different edge to the world, makes you think, holy shit, actually, Harry might be under threat from other people too.
Yeah. And it's like, you're right. It's the only one where he's not the, like, either direct or indirect threat.
Totally.
Right? Like, the only one. There should have been another one in there like that. I guess you can kind of count two as, like, he's not really involved. It's more like a fragment of him. But
yeah, but he's still him, isn't it? Let's be honest. Well, as the movie then trundles along from all the excessive magic use outside of school, we find out that Sirius Black has escaped from prison, which Sirius Black, we don't know why, but we're told he might come after Harry. And there's a really fun scene where Mr. Weasley has a chat with Harry, and he's like, whatever you hear about Sirius Black, don't go searching for him. And Harry Potter's like, why would I go searching for him? Why would I go searching for a guy who wants to kill me? It's like, because you've done that for the last 2 years, you psycho. Relax. Like, no one believes you.
Implies
yeah, exactly.
You fucking do.
You have a death wish.
I wish that like they would have actually acknowledged that. Like, because that'd be a funny piece of dialogue.
It'd be great.
Also, like, the one thing you do, like, if you're gonna fucking tell him that, what do you think he's gonna do?
Yeah,
it's the 100%. One thing he's gonna do.
But it's like kids, right? It's like kids. If as soon as you tell a kid not to eat the chocolate, all they can think about is eating the chocolate.
The premise of it is ridiculous to me. Like, everybody seems to know about this Sirius Black thing, and they all just don't tell Harry. And it's like, why wouldn't you tell him? Like, that information would be helpful. Well, I guess maybe you've already told because of the last 2 years. Yeah,
there you go.
That he will go try and find him. Yeah, but it's like, dude, he's gonna do that anyway. Anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, you tell him that the most powerful Dark Wizard of all time is trying to kill him. Why wouldn't you tell him that the second most is as well? At least he's prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
Madness. But look, I think as you were saying before, some of the performances in this, some of them are great, some of them not so much. I would call out that this is probably my least. I think this is the least bad Daniel Radcliffe is in any of these films. He's definitely got the best writing, even though he's not a great actor. We've talked about this 100 times, but I think he's all right in this.
Oh my God, I could not disagree more. I mean, like, I guess like his writing, yes. But like, can we please just talk about, he was their friend. Bear's bottom teeth becomes rabid dog. I'll kill him. Like, he turns into Golem. Like, what? Dude, he overact. Like, the fake crying, bro. Do you remember the fake crying?
Yes.
Like, dude, there is just, that whole scene is shockingly bad. Like, look, it should be on like billboards.
I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I think if you watched this back to back with the fifth one, which, spoiler alert, is my least favorite of any of these films, you would see that he is so bad in that. And it's what you're saying before. Like, he should be beginning to understand his profession. Like, he's growing up, and he should be beginning to like hone his own acting style. But he is just a piece of cardboard, and it's awful to watch. Whereas at least in this, he's trying. Like, at least he's trying to overact. Whereas in that one, he's just like, no, Harry Potter.
I give you that, but what I'll say is like his like approach to being angry is like, I'm going to scream and yell, I'll kill him, as opposed to like, there's a more subtle way to like deliver that line where it has more impact. You don't just have to turn into a rabid dog. Like, he literally bares his teeth. And
he just watched Heat the day before. He was very close to saying, she had a great ass.
Yeah, exactly. I don't fucking know. But he's not even the worst.
No.
He's
Michael
not
Gambon
even the
is.
worst. Well, he's bad, but not because of his acting, just because his acting doesn't match the source material.
Yeah, 100%. And, we'll talk about this as we go through, but I think Michael Gambon's lack of attention to detail and, his unwillingness to check out one of the biggest growing book series of the time really reflects badly on him. Like, it's not that it's a bad performance, it's that it's a performance that doesn't reflect any of the character that fans actually love.
Yes. Yeah. What justification do you have for not reading the books?
None.
Did he ever give
He just
one?
took a paycheck.
He's just like, I don't give a fuck, basically.
Pretty much, I would say. He's like, I'm too old for this.
Michael, I'll Google it while you carry on.
Do our favorite background music, Matt.
It just says like a bunch of people saying like he didn't, but like no one's really.
I'm pretty sure I've seen clips of him at like Comic-Cons and stuff where he's like, nah, couldn't be bothered. It's interesting though, because the rest of the characters, I like in general, you take out Harry and you take out Michael Gambon. These films are so well cast, like overall.
Yeah.
You look at the likes of the people who are brought into this, and we talked about them before. So Gary Oldman as Sirius Black, Robert Hardy's Cornelius Fudge. You've got David Thewlis as Lupin. These are like top class actors, top class, and they are really hamming the shit out of this for what's effectively a silly kids world. But they're having a great time doing it, and they're so good. And one person I really wanted to call out, who personally I feel really comes into his own. Like, he's good in the first two, but like really excels with the darker tone, is Alan Rickman as Snake. Snape. He is Snake Plissken.
Yeah. Look, he's really good, but apparently I finally got to the bottom of it. He said it was a deliberate choice not to read the books because he's like, there's no point. You'll just get mad about the scenes missing and they're different text. And apparently Alan Rickman didn't read them either, but I just don't believe that.
No, I don't believe that either.
Misquote. Yeah. But yeah, he's amazing. You're right. If you take out a couple, like the casting on this for the most part, even with the kids, it's really impressive. Like how they nailed for the most part the castings.
Like a lot of the other kids in it are good. Like outside of Harry, I'd say most of the other kids are pretty solid. Like Seamus is hilarious.
Yeah, and I think they even like Harry, they cast the right look. The kid just he just ended up not being able to act that well, or basically being an alcoholic for a period, which probably didn't help.
I mean, that would probably stunt your ability to act.
Yeah,
we should be nicer to Harry. Let's be honest.
We should. He struggled for, and honestly, he's not the worst. Hermione's the worst in this movie.
Really?
Like, she's by far the worst. Yes. If you go watch Hermione this entire movie, you will want to fucking neck yourself by the end of it. The level of like, just watch her in the background. It's like she was taught you're supposed to pretend to act in the background. Like, and it's so obvious that she's like, oh, this is like, and she delivers every line like, this is what an actor sounds like. As
this
opposed
is how
to
a
like,
human sounds.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is my acting voice. Like, it's so fucking bad. Like, the fake laugh after the snowball scene is like an iconic overacting
so
thing.
bad.
You can find it on YouTube. People make fun of it. And then literally she gives the worst fake punch I've ever seen.
Oh,
like,
we're going to talk about that. We are definitely
She is no MMA
fighter.
fighter. Like, it's like your fucking wrists would have broken, dude. Oh my God. And you can't even like, and the one that's really good, I would say, is maybe like Ron. Like, he's not that bad. Yeah, like he's really not that, but you can't really like give him all that much credit and praise when his only lines are like bloody hell and brilliant. Like, if that's all you're gonna say, dude, I'm not gonna give you that. Like, he's just passable. Like,
he's really just the comedy in this, isn't he? Like, they strip out a lot of the stuff that makes Ron in the books. And it's kind of sad.
Yeah. I mean, like, give it to him a bit in the fourth one, but they kind of half bake it.
Right. We'll get, I suppose we'll get there. But as the story progresses, then we see that the guys are on the way back to Hogwarts. The kids are all going, and there are Dementors. Dementors are going to be at Hogwarts, and they're effectively soul-sucking. Well, let's be honest with you. They are depression-causing, ghouls, as my partner likes to annoy me by calling them. She refuses to call them
Ghouls.
Dementors. She calls them ghouls.
Ghouls.
Ghouls, yeah.
Ghouls.
There's something about it that really annoys me. And one of my favorite things in all of these movies, and this isn't like a three best, three worst, but it's the opening year speech by Dumbledore. Now, in this, it's a bit different because obviously Gambon's, he's a different character. He's a bit rough around the edges. But I love that he effectively just lays out to all the kids, hey guys, here are the new things we've brought in to try and kill you this year. It's like,
Seriously.
every year, it's like, oh yeah, don't watch out for that, the big tree that could pummel you to death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's like it's both like subtle and not subtle. Like,
yeah, exactly.
There's the ones that literally he's like, don't do this or you will die. And then there's like, also we hired fucking Hagrid as your gameskeeper who has a very, very bad judgment on what is a kid-friendly animal. It's just like, or like any number of other things, right? Like it's just crazy,
year,
man.
Every year he's like,
and by the way, here's your other teacher who is a werewolf. Like, I'm on the Malfoy side, dude. That is not cool. That is risky, bro. Once a month he turns into a flesh-eating fucking monster.
10 points to Dumbledore.
No, bro. His record, his hiring record is fucking abysmal. It's abysmal. He really deserves to be fired.
Well, the first year he hired a teacher who had literally Voldemort sticking out the back of his head. The second year he hired a teacher who was more incompetent than Hagrid, let's be frank with you. The third year he literally hires a werewolf and Hagrid. So it's like his record's getting worse. It's a 0 for 0 hit rate.
It's shockingly bad.
Yeah, hilarious.
It's like he deserves a grand injunction. Anyway,
10 points to Dumbledore. But I think this movie, it moves at a clip, man. It's punchy. I don't think there's any fat to it, really. And it
is super tight.
It would be easy for there to be fat in this because, these books do, they do follow the books effectively. But this really, I would say, you mentioned it before, it really gets the essence of the story and sticks to it.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything big that's missing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can. I haven't reread the books in a while, but to me, it's pretty sharp.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, every other movie I can think of like a couple things. I'm like, how did you miss that? Like, you know what I mean? Or
yeah.
This character moment is not there.
I mentioned the fifth one before. That's my least favorite for a reason, and it cuts out so much of the book and does so many of these really good characters dirty. Especially Ginny. Oh my god, she is like so.
Ginny's
poorly
probably
done
the
in these
biggest.
books. Yeah,
she's probably the biggest butchered character, but it's also the actress. Like, I just don't. She just didn't. That was a poor casting.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that front. But the story, as I say, it is at a clip. But one thing that's interestingly introduced in this is the time turners and time travel. Now, I'm skipping around a little bit, but what do you think of the time turners and the whole introduction of time travel in this?
Very, very interesting. Another fucking flawed Dumbledore decision. Let's fucking give Hermione Granger basically the equivalent of a nuke because she's the best student of her year, so she can take fucking divination.
10 points to Dumbledore.
Does that risk reward really make any sense?
I think in general, though, the idea of time travel being in the wizarding world and just so freely available. It's so available, they can be like, let's give it to a 13-year-old. Like, what?
I just say, I don't think it actually is. I think Dumbledore is just like a sav and super smart and just has access to one. And he decides. I'm pretty sure it would be regulated.
It is. And it's regulated by the Ministry of Magic. They do say it in the books. I just think that, if you're going to give it to anyone, it's not going to be a 13-year-old. I don't give a shit how intelligent she is. Unless it is part of his bigger plan. It always feels like, definitely in the books, I don't know about the movies specifically, but in the books, it definitely feels like Dumbledore always has a bigger plan at play. So little things like that, in the seventh one, when he gives them all things in his will, one's like the Sword of Gryffindor, one's his Deluminator, and one's, I don't know, the Book of Kids' Tales or whatever it is.
Storytelling. Yeah.
I feel like there is always a bigger plan with these things. But in this, it's just... It's like, hey, Hermione, 10 points to Dumbledore. Have the ability to turn back time.
I actually like it as a storytelling technique. It's more just funny that, it's a fun thing to joke about. On Dumbledore's laundry list of mistakes, that would be high in the real world.
Yeah. Absolutely. But they
And
were
by the way, like spoilers, like he tells them to use it to go throw themselves into a dire situation of Dementors and werewolves. Like it's not even just like he gives it to him; he encourages them to use it in a very, very risky way. Anyway,
we're getting way ahead of the plot here, but there is a grandfather paradox around this, which is really annoying when you think about it, because there has to be a timeline where none of the stuff they do in going back in time happens. Because there has to be an original one. And I think pretty much that in that timeline, you would think about it, like the hippogriff would die, but probably, I don't know, like, does everyone die in that timeline?
No, it's like a closed, I think that like, by time travel, by definition, is a paradox. So obviously like, with understanding that we're not trying to solve that issue here. There's like narrative ways to do it where you do time travel where it's a closed loop. And I think that's what this is. It's like a closed loop timeline.
Okay.
As opposed to like creating a branch. You've closed off that old loop.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I do like how they follow the school year in this one. Like I know I'm jumping around here, but going backwards a step.
Yeah.
I kind of like how they follow the classes, and they predominantly follow a lot of Professor Lupin's classes, because obviously he's the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and there's a lot of cool stuff that he's teaching them, especially around Dementors. But one of the things that's cool about this is director Alfonso Cuarón, he actually had the idea that Hermione, Ron, and Harry all wear like their everyday clothes within Hogwarts more regularly, rather than just the Hogwarts uniforms. Yeah. And even like giving the school kids the opportunity to, when you were in school, you'd wear your tie, dumb. There was a period in school where you would have your tie and it would only be like 2 inches long. Like, what was that? What kids doing? I never understood this
like
stuff personally.
Super tight sweatshirts.
Yeah,
we did that. Like, we just all wore like super tight shit for no reason.
And there was a phase when wearing your two armed satchel, just one arm over one shoulder was as in like over your head was the cool one. Like, what are kids about? Yes. I still don't understand why we were so stupid. But like, I love these little touches that he gives, like, because that's what kids are like. They don't all conform to school uniform. I never used to want to, and I was a fucking goody. So I don't know about you.
No, I get it. Like, we all had weird things we did. I like that, and also probably give the actors some say in what they wore too, totally. Which like they're coming of an age where that was interesting for them as well.
Absolutely, and I like those little touches.
Yeah, and I think I like the stuff you were talking about with like how they were out at the castle a bunch. You got a lot of storylines with Lupin. Like he was really a high point for me. I do like him as an actor in this.
Yeah.
But I will say, because it wouldn't be, me without a downside.
Oh, here we go.
The amount of times that like they're just randomly having talks, like monologues, just randomly thrown in within no context of a class, right? I'm like, Harry, do you have any friends? Like he's just hanging out with the teacher. And not only that, there's like zero context to why they're in the middle of the wilderness. Like it's just like he's in the school talking with his friends. The next scene, he's like in the middle of the Scottish Highlands with fucking Lupin having a chat.
It's a nice shot.
There's no context as to why they're. Yeah, it's beautiful, but it's like how long have you been walking? They're like a 4-day wilderness hike into, a reserve.
This guy's really sick right now. You could tell that he's clearly unwell, and you've walked him into the middle of the forbidden forest. Yeah.
No sign of a trail. No snacks, no water, no food. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And it happens like 3 or 4 times, dude. And I'm just like, you are far too trusting. It's a good thing.
Oh yeah,
this man is not a pedophile. It's like, dude. I couldn't get over that. I'm like,
maybe there's roofies in that chocolate. You don't know.
I don't fucking know, but don't judge a book by its cover, but you look at Lupin and you're like, something's off. Let me just go on a 4-day hike with no water, food, or way of communicating with anyone alone with him.
You're a bad man. You're a bad man, DL.
Anyway, I had that note. That was just a minor note, but I do like his performance. Anyway.
I do very much like that performance. I think he's great at this. And you're right, though. Like, it is weird. I think if you bring it back to the classroom, it's a little less weird. Some of the classroom stuff is really good, like the whole introduction of the boggart, which gives away Lupin's entire arc. Let's be honest. Yeah. But I do like that, and I do like that scene where they're all having a go at beating the boggart. But one thing I did want to call out about that is, and you tell me how you feel, as like part of the world building, a big snake is scary, right? We all know a big snake is scary. But if you turned a big snake into a massive fucking unblinking clown, that is way more scary.
I agree. I said the same thing. I was like, that's freakier than the fucking snake. Like, what are you doing? Anyway.
The world building of the Boggart's great though, and it's interesting that they don't do as much of Boggarts within the entire world because they pop up through the books regularly. But they do serve as a really good way to be, I don't know, substitutes for Dementors. Maybe I do, and I think that leans into the whole sort of world building of the Dementor training with Harry and Lupin. I really like those scenes.
I think it also nice. And throughout the books, I think the Boggarts are like more even like a meta commentary on like the characters' like inner emotions, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That's how when they're used the most effectively. They kind of do they add perspective to like where certain characters are at mentally that don't necessarily have the limelight all the time.
Totally.
Like whether it's Neville and his grandma or the Weasleys and Mrs. Weasley and her kids and her family. Like I think that's kind of the coolest part about Boggarts. By the way, did you, as a kid, when you were reading this, did you pick that he was a werewolf early? I'm pretty sure I was like, I just didn't even think about it. I was just a dumb kid. I was like, oh, it's like a moon.
Great question. Great question. I honestly can't really remember. I remember thinking Lupin was like a bit on the nose when I came back around. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But like, probably not actually. But then there is that whole scene where Snape literally tells them that he is a werewolf. So Snape got to do Snape, right?
Yeah. I think I was just that dumb as a kid. I just like I didn't have the literary sophistication to put that together when I was reading.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Like, I mean, we were young when this came out, but like in terms of the cinematography world building, I think one of the more interesting parts on top of that is the introduction of like the seers and the future sight. So like you get Trelawney in this, like I think she
super cool.
Hate that character in the books. Hate it. I thought it was really weirdly written, but in this, I really liked the actor and I really liked how weird and almost comedic she was at times.
I liked it in both because it's kind of like this long thread of like, why is Dumbledore so protective of this woman?
Yeah,
and it's like because she can't protect herself. And she doesn't know the reality of like her power.
The danger she's
like to
in.
me, that was like a really interesting plot device. I liked that in the books and the actress is great as well.
She's awesome. She's awesome. I think I called this out before. I think some of the world building in this is the best in these movies. Like he does take it on a darker tone, obviously, but in ways that make sense for the story rather than just dark for the sake of dark. And I like that. I like that a lot. The story progresses then, and they find out all this exciting stuff about Sirius Black, that he's a bad dude. You have the big scene with the big fake cry, but then you get Sirius's redemption. But the scene that really irks me in this film is the one where they're in the Shrieking Shack, and Sirius and Lupin are there, and they have to create that tension that maybe they're both bad guys, rather than just saying, "Mate, it's your rat. We'll tell you why it's your rat." Don't worry about it. They've got to do this, weird question game or like statement game.
Mate, it's your rat.
Where they're all it's so annoying.
He can transform. It's your rat.
It's the rat. I'll show you. Just give me a minute. I'll explain everything. But no, he's got to be like, I'll kill one person tonight. It's like, dude, like, chill.
I don't know. I think I like that because it's like kind of he's in a manic state, right? He hasn't been around people for 10, what is it?
Lupin
12
isn't,
years.
Lupin isn't like...
No, and I think like Lupin kind of like, yeah, you're right. You could have him play it differently, but I don't mind the manic state that like Sirius Black's in, and it's your introduction to the character as well. It's been built up, so he's got to be a bit crazy.
Yeah. I like it's a whole plot conceit, right? Like they've got to do it. Like, and it kind of makes sense within the context of what's happening, and obviously within that character, like you say, like. But just it's one of those things in movies that like, and I can't remember. It's one of my favorite podcasts. They talk about the idea of this could have been solved with a Post-it note. Like, you know what I mean? Like you leave a Post-it on Harry's bedside table saying it's the rat.
Yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean?
But like, you don't know what Harry knows as well. Like, because they're not. There's multiple. We don't have to synthesize the movie, but like, I don't mind that as much. What I find interesting though is like how in that scene that we've already talked about to death, where all the overacting happens, like he just like goes in under the invisibility cloak, learns all this stuff about Sirius that actually like isn't true. That he's the one that gave up his Lily and James Potter to Voldemort, and they trusted him, but he ended up betraying them and all this shit. He finally learns that, but he's alone. He goes into the bar alone and hears Professor McGonagall talk about this, and then storms out, has this fake cry fit, yells that he's going to become a murderer and kill him, all this stuff, and like as if Ron and Hermione know exactly what he's talking about. There's no context; they weren't there, and I'm just like, dude, he betrayed them. How do we? If I was them, I'd be like, you've got issues, dude.
What?
Like, what are you talking about? Like, if he just came out swinging, they have none of the context, and he's like, I'm gonna kill him.
The way he says kill him as well is probably the worst acted one line of movies ever. I hate it.
Anyway,
I hate every second of it.
I hate it too, Thomas.
But I think in terms of action, like it's a smaller scale movie in terms of the action. Like if you think about the ones that have come before it, like the first one, you have the whole voyage through the center of Hogwarts to try and find the mirror, and he has to get through all these big challenges. And the second one, you've got this epic snake battle at the end. Big old snake that still looks terrible. I'll never let that die. But in this, it's kind of like just, it is like a battle for his soul. I'll give you that. It is. But it's just these kind of like weird, freaky ghoul guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's more of a mystery.
Yes.
I mean, I guess they're all mysteries, but it's more like whodunit. Like there is some like, most of the action that you would think happens mostly off screen until the climax. Yeah. Unless you're counting,
it's
unless
interesting.
You're counting Hermione's MMA punch. In that scenario, it happens very much on screen.
Like the punch scenario, but like the time turner stuff as well. Like it's a slow reveal of the things that they've done. Just they didn't realize they were going to do them in the future. And I quite like that conceit of the whole movie. It kind of works.
Yeah, a lot of swoopy Dementor action.
Yeah,
which
and it all fits with the darker tone.
Yeah, I like the concept. I didn't like the CGI of how the Dementors look, but the actual action and like how they flew around, like that stuff. Like maybe it's just the CGI doesn't hold up as much.
That's interesting. You don't like the look of the Dementors in this.
I like the look. They just look a little too fake.
Okay.
Like I would have preferred more like a combination of like prosthetics with CGI.
Oh, 100%.
Where it was like, you know what I mean? Like where it was like more like you could see the like thread and crustiness of their like face, like of their cloth, and it just feels kind of obviously a CGI.
Yeah, I would 100% give that some sort of practicality to those ghouls would have been really nice. In terms of the look of them, though, I think this is the best they get. They go really downhill after that because they return in the fifth one, I believe. And they're just totally different. They're just these weird skeleton things that float. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
That's not a Dementor. That's a ghoul.
Where's its hood? Where's the... like, what is happening? And they're very quick. I feel like in the books, one of the things about specifically Dementors is they're quite slow and very precise in the things they do. And they just emit this like power that slows you down. It's almost slow motion to you. That's how I felt reading them anyway. Because
that's the tone that's set. Yeah, it's like the whole setting changes and it's this slow creep. Yeah, you're right.
Completely. And I don't think they quite get that right in this. That's one thing that I'm a bit like, in terms of the tone of it, they could have just made them so creeping. And I think it would have been scarier. You make them things come at you super slow and they're about to like suck out your soul.
And just like almost like rickety, maybe. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Completely. So the movie then moves on and we get the confrontation of Pettigrew and Lupin. We know that Pettigrew is the one now who gave up Harry's parents, and Harry finds out that he has a goduncle. He has a godfather, who is the person he could live with. And I just think that's some of the most genuine emotion I have seen out of that actor, and probably will see out of that actor in any of these books.
No,
films.
He played that really well. Like the joy, and like you just knew that it was not going to happen because he was so happy.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, this is not going to work out.
It is the hero conceit, though, isn't it? He can't be happy for that long. There has to be something to take that away.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you think Sirius would be the one to die later on? Spoilers for later books, obviously, but like at this point, did you think, he can't stay with him that long? Like, obviously, there is going to be a point in time where where Voldemort is less involved in the world or gone or whatever. Did you ever think that maybe Sirius would die at this point?
As a kid, I didn't really think about it, but I think when I was reading Order of the Phoenix, I was no longer a kid, and I was kind of expecting it at that point because they also
Right.
like foreshadow it pretty strongly. Like he's pretty
Yes.
rash the
Yes,
entire
they do.
book. So
Like he is
Yeah.
just an idiot in those books,
yeah,
which is fine. You know, it's fine. Moving on then. So we obviously find out time turners. We've talked about it. Harry and Hermione are back in time. They change everything. Everything's fantastic. They think they're going to get away. And then obviously Pettigrew still escapes. We're not going to talk about time travel because that's its own thing. But Sirius's eventual fate that he does escape is actually quite a nice one. Like Harry knows he has this other person in the world. Harry has this one glimmer of hope in him. And I genuinely really like that.
it was a good ending. It was like bittersweet. It's
Yes.
like you're bitter that it's not what it could have been, but it's sweet because it's like he still has that moment. Like I'd say it's one of the better endings to one of these movies. And in general, like I love a bittersweet ending, and it's like you have to have a little bit of like bitterness towards what could have been, but leave something for the character to like hope for and, eventually have ideally ripped away.
Yeah.
Because we all love a very negative story. Like it's not fun if people don't go through challenges. But I agree.
Saying that this is the worst ending of any of these films for one specific reason. Do you know what that reason is?
No, I'm excited for you to tell me though.
It's the freeze frame.
With the face.
Yeah. So Harry gets the broom and he's like, wah! And it just like, like the freeze frame, he looks like he's in physical pain. I'm like, bro, what is happening? And I just wanted to make one final point. We don't normally talk about music when we talk about these films, but one really key thing to call out about this is that this is actually the final of the Harry Potter movies that was scored by the legend that is John Williams. He is credited throughout the rest of the franchise because he obviously created Hedwig's theme, the key, that song that everybody knows Harry Potter for. And the rest of his stuff was like adapted as it goes through. But I think you can kind of tell. I think the music from here, it remains kind of epic, but at the same time, it's never quite as good as it is in these first three movies. And that's, I don't normally pick up on music, but in this case, I think he's such a legend. You can really tell when he's not involved.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, he's got... It's just wild how many iconic things he's done.
Oh,
it
amazing.
Is wild. I didn't know that this was him, but it makes sense. Like, and over the years, it's not like it was just one era.
Consistent.
Like he's adapted.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
And so many different like genres as well. Like a lot of times I feel that you'd probably like you look at Hans Zimmer, like he sort of sits across genres, but his music never really is that different. It's them big cinematic.
Yeah.
I know he does different stuff, but it still has that huge cinematic bellowing tones to it, whereas John Williams, everything's subtly different and everything's interesting and new and vibrant. Love the guy.
Like compare Indiana Jones to the theme song of this.
Yeah. Or Star Wars.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's just like, I think like even Star Wars and Indiana Jones, those are similar, but like that style to this style, like that's such a juxtaposition of like
completely. Completely. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about tones and themes then?
Yeah, look, I mean, the tone is, as you said, is negro. It's dark. It's very, it's very like, moody.
I think it's almost like, I think that a tone for me is, or a theme even, is even like depression.
Yeah.
And how that sort of weighs on you. Like you talk about darkness and the darker tone of the movie, the weight of depression on you and how that
and fear
changes everything.
And yeah. What is fear and like, how do you face your fears?
Yeah, completely.
And redemption is obviously a theme, given the storyline with Sirius Black.
Redemption.
And even
time and fate. I like that. I like the whole thing about like, this is the first time you really start to question like fate in these books, really, because, Dumbledore gives them the option to change time, to change the fate of certain characters. But then you immediately find out, I think it's in the next book or maybe the one after that, Harry's fate is set. He doesn't actually have a choice in it. He has to go down this path. And I think this is when it really opens up the question about characters' fates.
And prophecy, because it's the first one with like real prophecy that we witness. So, but it toys at that theme of like, is it fate or is it just preordained because of the life you've lived? I love, like, I think I actually really like the way that prophecy's handled in this book and the way that it's handled in A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Because it's like, sure, there's a prophecy of the boy who lived, but it could have been Neville. It could have been him.
Yeah.
The reason it's him is because of the life he experienced, right? Of course he's going to want to chase down the guy that killed his parents, right?
Yeah.
It's almost set into motion. It's like Jon Snow. Who's going to be the one that sacrifices everything for, the greater good? The one that was, basically the bastard and overlooked for years, like who kind of can have that perspective, right? Like, so I do like the way they handle that. And I think that you're right. Prophecy and fate and time is a big kind of theme. And
very nice. I love it. I love it. So what we do now is we talk 3 best and 3 worst. And what 3 best and 3 worst is, it's 3 reasons, usually non-spoilers, but as this movie's from 2004, we are going to give you some reasons why you might want to watch this movie if we haven't given you some already, and 3 reasons why you might not want to watch this movie. DL, what are your 3 best for this film?
New characters for the most part.
Yes, agreed. That's
Super
my
well
first
cast.
one, actually.
Yeah. We've talked about that a lot, so I don't have to dig in. I mean, it's Harry Potter, so I mean, even the shittiest Harry Potter movie has, heartwarming moments. I would not say this is the shittiest, but it's definitely worse than I remember it. So I'd say, you still get that. And then I'd say it's probably the best, as we said, adaptation plot, point by plot point. So if you're a fan of the books, like, this one is pretty true to form, even with the acting gripes that I had.
Agreed.
How about you?
I had the darker tone of the film, which we've talked about in depth, to be frank, and the Dementors. I feel like this is the only time they really resemble the Dementors from the books. They just get shit after this. They're like, they are this creeping, and like, they're a bit fast, I mentioned that, but they're this creeping, terrifying presence. They're not even really like a physical thing. You can't, like, muggles can't see them. They are just this, overwhelming depression. And I think they're really well done in this, and they just have a place in my mind as being absolutely terrifying forever because of what they represent in these books. And the bit where they're trying to suck out Sirius's soul, bloody hell, that's hard to read.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the Dementors are a freaking really cool creation, I think, as far as fantasy goes. I don't know that there's anything really like them that I've seen outside of this world. So I'll give you that.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. What are your worst?
My worst would probably be, kid actors just trying to grow up and they end up overacting. And I'm gonna use Harry and Hermione as like 1 and 2 here. I'm doubling down because it was just that frustrating to me. And when you start watching them in the background, like, of scenes, that's when it really, like, you're like, grinds your gears, as I said.
Okay.
So give it a view if you really want to ruin your Harry Potter 3 viewing experience.
I did have Daniel Radcliffe as mine, and I think he's going to be in every one of mine because I just don't think he's good in these films.
Yeah, it's fair. And then Dumbledore is my third, which is just like his tone of the way he plays the character is just so opposite of like what the actual character's actions, how he acts.
Yeah,
right? They don't really jive, largely because he didn't read the books.
Totally with you on that one. I also have, and I think this is going to be a consistent theme for these as well for me. The Harry's "I love magic" moments. Where he's like,
they're always there, though. They're always there.
They're always
There's not
there.
that many in this one, though, I thought.
And this one takes a slightly different twist on it for me. This one's the, why would I go looking for someone who wants to kill me moment? Like, fuck off, you little idiot. Like, that is your entire character. Why would anyone believe you when you say that?
Yeah, fair enough.
And my final one is, and this is really funny, and I have such a weird problem is, how I like to pick movies to pieces? Always do it.
Of course.
This is one thing in this movie that just really grinds my gears. When they first get back to Hogwarts and there's that weird song that's going on and it's all the kids in the choir and they've got like toads and it's like, something wicked this way comes. I'm like,
yeah, I loved it.
I'm like, when did you learn that? Like, you've just come back from your summer holidays. You haven't seen each other in how many weeks? Where did you get the frogs from? Who in their right mind is this a regular
so
thing?
Random.
Do you do this every year? Why didn't we see it last year? What is happening?
I don't know. It's so random. I loved it. I fucking loved it.
It's so dumb.
So let's loop around. Back when we mentioned in
yeah,
our news segment that there's some casting rumors. We're just why don't we just throw out English actors and just figure out actors and actresses? Let's figure out
do it.
Do they make sense?
Okay. I Googled British actors before. Let's talk about a few. Let's talk about a few that haven't been in these films. So first and foremost, The first on the list is Benedict Cumberbatch. Any thoughts on? So there's a lot of actors who are in that sort of late 30s to 50s time frame. And I think one thing we talked about before is, you know what I would do? Like, you look at what happened, very unfortunately, to Richard Harris, passed away, an older Dumbledore. Why not have a slightly younger actor, age them up with makeup and prosthetics, and just fucking roll with it? Like, why don't we have, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis, for example, as Dumbledore? That would be a great choice.
Dude, it's so obvious who Benedict Cumberbatch should be.
Who?
Voldemort.
Stop it! That's so good.
Can you imagine him as a Tom Riddle, as like you could age him down to like you could do flashbacks to like, you know, like mature Tom Riddle before he's Voldemort. You could show that scene with him and Dumbledore where he tries to become a teacher.
I love that.
I think he's a great Voldemort.
I
was just thinking, like, what has he done in fantasy? And it's always a villain. And I was like, oh, wait, what about Voldemort?
Such a great idea. Such a great idea. I absolutely adore that idea. What about Andy Serkis? What do you reckon for Andy Serkis?
Andy Serkis.
He's got to be in here somewhere.
Weird for this. What is he? What is he? Andy Serkis. Fuck. Maybe like he could be Hagrid.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Which would be interesting for him because it's not like, you know, as weird as his normal ones.
Here's one.
Maybe like a Mungumbus Fletcher, like some kind of, you know, goofy guy. I don't know.
Here's one for you.
Mad-Eye Moody.
I'm going to go and I'm going to say, what about gender swapped actors for these roles? And I think this could be amazing. What about Tilda Swinton as Dumbledore? Now, hear me out. She's always got this odd energy, but she can play she has a lightness to her acting as well. She's really, you know, she's one of the best actors of our time, let's be frank. And I just think she could nail that.
I'm not saying she's not. I think there's probably a role for her in this that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, all right.
I'm not saying that's
You're not down.
The case.
You're not feeling it. That's all right. That's all right.
Dumbledore. She's just too kind of eerie for me.
Okay. But so is Dumbledore.
I've never seen her play non-creepy eerie. Like, how does Dumbledore come off if that's the vibe we get? Like, I don't know. I'd be like, maybe. Like, I'd be keen to see her audition for it and see what it like she brought. But I take your point.
Here's a question: who dies relatively early on? Who Sean Bean could play?
You mean like before the series even starts?
Yeah, exactly.
It's gotta be his dad. It's just Sean Bean plays.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
And he's just dead already. He never survived. He never had a chance. We've fucking that one's fired in. Lock it in. Sean Bean is James Potter.
He's got to be something like that. Oh, I don't know if he doesn't look like what I think Harry would look like. So perhaps we could find a role for him.
He doesn't really have to though. Remember, it's like so much like, oh, I guess no, he's supposed to look like his dad.
What about like a Mad-Eye Moody? Like, I know he's not like I think bulky, but
I think that's one where you could gender swap, and just like have it be a very, very different character.
Interesting.
It's like still grizzled and old. But my take from Mad-Eye Moody, frickin' hell, I don't know, man. Maybe like there's so many like older actors you could pick there. I don't know. I can't think of maybe a Hugh Grant. But Hugh Grant, I think, would be a better like funny character.
Yeah, he's. I don't see him as that gruff character,
like Ollivander or some shit.
Two final ones for you then. I want to know who you think these two could be, and I've got an idea for one of them, but I want to know who you think Lena Headey could be.
Any of the witches, like
Bellatrix.
She could also be a good Mrs. Weasley if she didn't want to be kind of like if she wanted to do something different.
Okay, all right.
You could pull off being nice. But yeah, I would say like a Bellatrix or like any one of those kind of Death Eater women.
Yeah.
Characters.
Okay. What about Olivia Colman? I love Olivia Colman. I think she's amazing. She's got such a great energy. I could pit her as like a McGonagall or something.
Yeah, she could be great for that. Actually, that's a good call out. What do you think about like an Aaron Taylor-Johnson, a Florence Pugh, how about a Ben Barnes?
Oh, Ben Barnes. I just feel that they're in
strike your fancy.
They're in that middle ground, aren't they? They're just they're too old to be
too young,
like kid characters, but they're too young to be like teacher characters. So like
Florence Pugh could be a great Tonks.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say exactly that. I like that idea. All right, let's finish up then, DL. Let's talk about our rating system for this film. Now, we don't have a 5 out of 5 stars. We don't have, I don't know, 3 Hermione haircuts out of 4 Hermione haircuts. We just say, completely binary, is this better or worse than the most average movie that we know, which is Aquaman 2018? DL, is this better or worse than Aquaman 2018?
I think just due to the tightness of the script, the, true, like the loyalty to the source material, I gotta say, yes, it is better than Aquaman 2018.
I'm 100% with you. This is probably I know a lot of people have problems with the fourth one. I really, really like the fourth one, the movie specifically. So I'm a bit like, I really like this. This is definitely better than Aquaman 2018. So I'm 100% on board with you. Let's quickly then rank the Harry Potter movies we've seen. So far we have seen The Philosopher's Stone, we have watched Chamber of Secrets, and we've watched Prisoner of Azkaban. Which is your favorite, my man?
I think number 1.
Number 1's your favorite?
Maybe 2.
Okay.
I don't know. Honestly, I like 2 because I don't love the snake, but I like just like all the like stuff around Parseltongue and like Hermione, like the mystery of it all.
Yeah, okay.
I actually, when I think about the climax of 1, I take it back. Definitely 2.
Okay.
But it's very close to 3. It's 2 or 3. They're kind of on the same tone for me.
I have this. I had Prisoner of Azkaban, I had Philosopher's Stone, then I had Chamber of Secrets. I just hate that big fucking snake. It's so bad.
Fair enough.
All right, finally then, let's do this. Trivia, true or false? DL. Trivia, true or false? Originally, the script called for Hermione to slap Malfoy as opposed to punching him. Is that true or is that false?
Probably true. I want to say true.
It is true. During rehearsals for the scene, Tom Felton told Emma Watson to slap him. However, he had intended for her to actually hit him, and thus was taken by surprise when Emma smacked him across the face. I think that's great. That's a real good girl power moment. I really like that bit in the film.
Yeah. I think they're good friends as well, I think.
Yeah. I think in the books, she just slaps him, which I don't feel is as impactful.
Definitely, like punching is more like you're right. It's more like shocking.
Yeah,
but it's also just like so much less believable when you see an uncoordinated Emma Watson.
I don't
like
think
reading about it is different than.
Yeah, I don't think she pulled it off as well. Yeah, I will give you that. Yeah. True or false, DL? Sir Ian McKellen turned down the role as Dumbledore. Is that true or is that false?
Oh, Ian McKellen. I believe he did, and that reminds me, Ian McShane should be in our recasting. I can't believe I didn't mention that. But I believe he did. I'm saying that's true.
It is true. Having already appeared as Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, he said, I had enough trouble living up to 1 legend. 2 would be too much to hope for. I think he'd have been a great Dumbledore.
He would have been great. Like, he would have been so good. But it is kind of the similar character.
Yeah, and I get why he didn't want to have both on his CV. Yeah. So, trivia true or trivia false, DL? Alfonso Cuarón had the idea for when the Dementors approached the Hogwarts Express, the rain would turn to ice. However, due to his thick Mexican accent, the visual effects team misheard ice and thought he said eyes. Is that true or is that false?
False.
It's actually true. They went as far as drafting storyboards depicting eyes falling from the sky. Now that is delightful.
That's scary as well. That sounds much scarier.
Fucking terrible. Terrifying. All right. Finally then, DL. Trivia true or trivia false? Azkaban prison only briefly appears in this film, despite the name, and has a larger appearance in later movies. Is that true or is that false?
It's true. I think you see it via cell in Sirius, like when you like see Sirius like in a cell, but you don't actually see the outside. You just see like an image of him in it, or like a image of a cell. True.
As in a photograph.
Yes.
Don't think that counts, unfortunately, my man. So Azkaban prison, though mentioned, never actually appears in the movie. Concept art was created based off what it was how it was described in the books. The sketches effectively were used for when the Order of the Phoenix came out in 2007.
Yeah, 5, sorry.
Well, ultimately, I thoroughly enjoyed watching this film back. Apparently, you did not.
I enjoyed it. I just enjoyed the film less. Does that make sense? It was fun to analyze. It was fun to like think about, especially in the context of this new kind of hopefully, remade long form series.
Are we ruining movies for each other by doing it this way?
Yeah, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Brilliant. Right. Brilliant. All right. Well, DL, thank you. And thank you for everyone for sticking through to this point. Where can they find us?
They can find us at Podcast Assemble on Instagram or thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. And, if you're there, again, give us a little review, write us in.
5-star, baby!
I also would like to really just thank Matthew Bliss. He's going to have a rough hack job because we're remoting today.
Apologies, Matt.
But for editing and mastering this week's episode, if you'd like to hire someone to edit your podcast, we cannot recommend him more highly. Head to MatthewBliss.net. That is MatthewBliss.net and book a consultation today. He'll help you out. And if you want to hear his work, he's actually got a really cool new podcast called From My Home to Yours. Great name. Good name. Very heartfelt.
Very
An
heartfelt.
expat/repat podcast where Matt and his kind of wife share their experiences and advice for others having moved to Ireland from Australia. And it probably, myself having moved to America.
I was going to
from
say.
America to Australia.
We could have done with that a few years ago
anywhere.
ourselves. So get on it, guys. Check it out. It's very wholesome. The guys have a great dynamic, and it is lovely to hear them. So happy.
Love to see it, man. Love to hear it. Thank you, Tommy, for this fine day.
Thank you, DL. I'm gonna kill him.
He betrayed. He trusted them. Until next time.
Tally ho, buddy.
Tally-ho.
I'm having too much fun over here. The hangover's worn off. It's great.